It is widely believed that some women carry curses, and any man who goes near them is in trouble, right? This story is about a man whose love of everything under the skirt led into a big trap, that the only solution is for his mother to breastfeed him like a baby. It happened. In a village far, far away, there was a man named Sambo. Sambo was tall, very strong, and very handsome. All the girls in the village would look at him whenever he passed. But Sambo had a big problem. He loved women too much. Every time a girl walked by, no matter if she was short or tall, slim or fat, Sambo wanted her. He didn't care. He just wanted to be with her. Because of this, Sambo destroyed the futures of many girls in the village. Girls who trusted him, who believed his sweet words, ended up heartbroken. Sambo never cared. He kept jumping from one girl to another, always looking for someone new. Sambo's mother saw what he was doing and told him many times, "My son, you need to stop. Find one woman and settle down." But Sambo never listened. He would just laugh and go back to his ways. He wasn't just with young girls, he even slept with married women. Sambo didn't care about anyone but himself. And so Sambo kept going from woman to woman, never stopping, never thinking about the trouble he caused. One day, Sambo met a girl named Tinuke. She was different from the others. Tinuke was calm, gentle, and kind. She didn't cause trouble, and everyone in the village liked her. Sambo, with his sweet words, promised Tinuke everything. "I will give you the world," he said. "I can't wait to marry you." Tinuke believed him because she thought Sambo was being honest this time. Sambo even took Tinuke to meet his mother. His mother liked Tinuke and hoped this would finally change her son. Tinuke was happy. She thought she had found her forever with Sambo. But after some time, something changed. One day, Tinuke went to Sambo's house, her face worried. She looked at him and said, "Sambo, I'm pregnant." She thought he would be happy, but Sambo's face turned angry. "What do you mean you're pregnant?" he shouted. "That baby isn't mine. Am I the only man you've been with?" Tinuke's heart broke. She felt used and ashamed. She knew she had only been with Sambo, but he didn't believe her. With tears in her eyes, she went back home and told her parents. Her parents were angry and sent her back to Sambo's house. "You must marry him," they said. So the wedding happened, but it wasn't a happy one. Only a few people came. There was no celebration, no dancing, no joy. Tinuke married Sambo, but in her heart she knew things would never be the same. After Sambo and Tinuke got married, everything changed. Sambo became very cruel. He would get angry at Tinuke for the smallest things and beat her. Tinuke tried to be a good wife, but no matter what she did, Sambo was never happy. He didn't stop chasing other women either. Every day, Sambo would be out with someone new, not caring about Tinuke at all. Then one day Tinuke gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. The baby looked just like Sambo, but he didn't care. He didn't even look at the baby. Instead, he said terrible things to Tinuke. "This child is your problem, not mine," Sambo said, turning his back on them. For a whole year, Tinuke tried to care for her baby, but Sambo became worse. He would come home drunk and blame Tinuke for all his problems. "You're the reason nothing good happens to me," he shouted one night. In his anger, Sambo threw all of Tinuke's things out of the house. "I don't want to see you or your child ever again," he yelled. Tinuke was heartbroken. She picked up her baby and the few things she had left and walked away from the house. Tears filled her eyes, but there was nothing she could do. Sambo didn't care. In fact, he was happy that she was gone. Now, he felt free again to do whatever he wanted. Sambo's bad ways only grew worse after Tinuke left. This time, he set his eyes on Amaka, the beautiful wife of Ezenna. Ezenna, a poor but hard-working farmer, spent his days toiling under the hot sun, trying to provide for his wife and their 3 children. While Ezenna worked far away in the fields, Sambo sneaked around, his eyes always on Amaka. One fateful afternoon, Sambo did what he had done many times before. He crept into Ezenna's house, his heart racing with excitement. As he entered quietly, he made sure no one saw him. Straight to Ezenna's bedroom, he went, where Amaka was already waiting for him. They wasted no time. The air was filled with a dangerous excitement as they got close and slept with each other, thinking they were safe. But just as they finished, something shocking happened. Sambo stood up from the bed, a smug smile on his face. Then it happened. Out of nowhere, a loud sound erupted from his mouth. He crowed like a native fowl. The noise was so sharp, it echoed through the walls of the house. Amaka gasped, her eyes wide with fear. Sambo looked around in disbelief, his heart pounding in his chest. Before they could understand what was going on, Sambo crowed again, this time even louder, the sound cutting through the air like a blade. The villagers heard it. People started running out of their homes, eyes wide, asking, "What's that sound?" But it wasn't over. Sambo's mouth opened again, and he let out the loudest crow yet. It was so powerful, it shook the walls. By now, the entire village had gathered outside Ezenna's house, whispering and staring, their faces filled with confusion and curiosity. Inside, Sambo stood frozen, unable to stop the noise coming from his own mouth. Amaka's heart raced with panic. What was going on? What had just happened? Sambo, the man who thought he was untouchable, was now making the sound of a fowl, and he didn't know why. The suspense hung thick in the air, like a storm waiting to break. The villagers were about to find out that Sambo's days of sneaking around were about to come to a bitter end. The whole village was in shock. No one had ever heard or seen anything like this before. The loud crowing sounds from Sambo's mouth echoed in their minds. People couldn't believe it. Sambo, the handsome womanizer, now crowing like a rooster. Without wasting time, the men of the village rushed into Ezenna's house. They found Sambo still standing there, frozen in fear. Quickly, they tied his hands and wrapped cloth around his mouth to stop him from crowing again. The villagers whispered, "What kind of curse is this?" Amaka, shaking with fear and shame, was brought outside. They sat her beside Sambo, both of them now the center of attention. The village was buzzing. Mothers pulled their children closer, and the men exchanged worried glances. "What should we do with them?" some villagers whispered. The village elders were called immediately. They were the wisest in the land, and only they could decide what would happen next. The villagers waited in silence as the elders sat down in a circle, their faces serious. Then, someone was sent to the farm to fetch Ezenna. When Ezenna arrived, he was confused at first. He saw the large crowd gathered in front of his house. Then, his eyes fell on Amaka, sitting on the ground, and beside her, Sambo, his hands tied, his face full of shame. Ezenna's heart sank. He had known something was wrong, but now he saw the truth with his own eyes. The elders looked at Ezenna, waiting for his decision. The crowd held their breath. Finally, one elder spoke. "Ezenna, what shall we do with them?" Ezenna looked at Sambo, then at his wife Amaka. His face was calm, but his eyes were cold. He took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "The solution is death." Gasps filled the air. The villagers couldn't believe what they had just heard, but Ezena was serious. He had been betrayed in the worst way possible, and now he wanted justice. The elders nodded solemnly, knowing this situation was grave. Sambo's fate and Amaka's now rested in their hands. As the villagers stood in silence, Ezena stepped forward. His face was calm, but his eyes were filled with the pain of betrayal. He looked at the elders, then at the crowd, and began to speak. "There's something you all must know," he said, his voice steady. "I had placed a charm on my wife." The crowd gasped. Everyone leaned in closer, eager to hear more. Ezena continued, "The charm is called Isi. It is meant to punish anyone who dares sleep with my wife if she is unfaithful. The moment that person commits the sin, they will crow like a rooster, over and over, until they die." The villagers exchanged shocked glances. Now it all made sense. The crowing, the strange behavior. It was the charm working its magic. Ezena had been prepared for this day. "I knew something like this would happen," Ezena said, his voice firm. "I had caught Amaka once before, but I let her go, thinking it was a mistake. But now, this charm has revealed the truth. Sambo slept with her, and now the punishment is upon him." The villagers murmured among themselves, stunned by Ezena's words. The elders too were deep in thought. It was a powerful charm, one that could not be taken lightly. "But," Ezena continued, "because of the pleas of the elders, I will give Sambo one last chance to live." The crowd went silent again, waiting for what Ezena would say next. "Sambo will not die by the charm, but only if he completes one condition," Ezena said, his eyes locking on Sambo. "He must suck his mother's breast for 7 days. If he does this, he will survive. If not, the charm will take his life." The villagers couldn't believe their ears. Suck his mother's breast. It was a strange and humiliating condition, but it was Sambo's only chance to survive. The elders nodded in agreement. "Let it be done," they said. The crowd remained silent, stunned by the strange twist of events. Sambo's life now rested on a simple yet shameful act. The villagers were stunned. The silence was so thick you could hear the wind rustling through the trees. Everyone looked at Sambo, who stood there, his face pale and filled with shame. The proud womanizer was now facing the most humiliating condition of his life. Sambo's mother was called immediately. When she arrived, she was shocked to see her son tied up and surrounded by the villagers. The elders explained the situation to her, how Sambo had slept with Amaka, how the charm had cursed him, and how the only way to save him was for him to suck her breast for 7 days. But Sambo's mother was furious. She shook her head and refused. "No," she said, her voice filled with anger. "I will not help him. After all the pain and shame he has caused me, after ruining so many lives in this village, I cannot do this." Sambo's mother remembered all the times she had begged him to change, to settle down with one woman. She thought about the disgrace he had brought upon her family with his womanizing ways. She had warned him, but he never listened. The elders pleaded with her. They reminded her that Sambo was still her son, and even though he had made many mistakes, this was his only chance to survive. The crowd waited anxiously, holding their breath as the conversation unfolded. Finally, after much pleading, Sambo's mother sighed deeply and said, "I will help him, but after these 7 days, I will no longer be his mother. I will disown him." Sambo nodded, his head hanging low in shame. He knew he had no choice. The proud man who had once felt untouchable was now about to face the most humbling experience of his life. Sambo was taken home by the village youths, his hands still tied, his heart heavy with shame. His mother, though reluctant, had agreed to help him, but it was clear she did it out of duty, not love. She sat down, her face filled with disappointment, and began the strange ritual of breastfeeding her grown son. Sambo's head hung low as he was being breastfed by his mother. It was the most humiliating moment of his life, but he knew he had no choice. If he refused, he would crow like a rooster until death claimed him. The shame burned inside him, but the fear of death was stronger. As the days passed, Sambo had a lot of time to think. Lying there, he began to reflect on his life, the life that had brought him to this moment. For the first time, the weight of his actions started to sink in. He thought about all the girls he had lied to, the promises he had broken. He remembered how he had ruined their futures without a second thought. He thought about Tinuke, the girl who had believed in him, the one he had hurt the most. She had carried his child, and he had turned her away, treating her like she was nothing. Sambo realized that he didn't even know what his own child looked like. He had never held her, never cared for her. The regret weighed heavy on his heart, making him feel small and powerless. For years, Sambo had thought he was invincible, that he could do whatever he wanted without consequences. But now, he was reduced to sucking his mother's breast to stay alive, and it was breaking him from the inside. As each day passed, Sambo began to see the true cost of his reckless life. The homes he had destroyed, the women he had hurt, the pain he had caused. It all played in his mind like a bad dream. For the first time, he felt deep regret. He wished he could go back and undo everything, but he knew it was too late. Sambo was no longer the proud, handsome man he used to be. He was just a broken soul, clinging to life, forced to face the consequences of his actions. And with each passing day, the shame and regret only grew. While Sambo was dealing with his shame, things were not any better for Amaka. After the whole village witnessed her betrayal, she knew there was no going back. Ezena, her husband, had been quiet at first, but when he finally spoke, his words were heavy with the pain of betrayal. Amaka, Ezena said, "You have caused me enough pain. I loved you, trusted you, and you betrayed me. A loyal woman will take your place in my home. You must leave." Amaka's heart sank. She knew she had done wrong, and now she had to face the consequences. She looked at her husband, her eyes filled with regret, but she knew there was no way to undo what had been done. She had broken the trust of a good man, and there was no more forgiveness left for her. Before leaving, Amaka dropped to her knees and begged Ezena for one last favor. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling, "let me see our children. I know I've done wrong, but they are still my children. Don't take them away from me completely." Ezena looked at her for a long moment. He could see the regret in her eyes, but his heart was hardened by the hurt she had caused. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "You may see them, but you must leave the village. You cannot stay here anymore." Amaka nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. She knew this was the only mercy she would receive, and even though it hurt to leave her children, she accepted her punishment. Quietly, she gathered her things and left Ezena's house, her heart heavy with regret. As she walked out of the village, the people whispered behind her, but Amaka kept her head down. She knew her actions had brought this upon her, and there was no one to blame but herself. She had betrayed her family, her husband, and now she had lost everything. With each step away from the village, Amaka thought about the life she had destroyed and the family she had shattered. She knew that she would never return, and she would have to live with the pain of her mistakes for the rest of her life. On the seventh day, Sambo was weak, barely able to keep his eyes open, but he was still alive. His mother had kept her promise, feeding him every day to keep him from death. As she looked at him one last time, her face was hard and filled with disappointment. "Sambo," she said, her voice heavy, "I have done what the elders asked, but from this day on, you are no longer my son. I have nothing left to give you. You've brought me nothing but shame." Sambo, too weak to respond, simply nodded. He tried to stand up, but his legs wobbled under him. He stumbled, his body tired and broken from the ordeal. As he struggled to walk, he realized this was the end of the life he once knew. He had nothing left, no family, no children, and no friends. Everything was gone. For the first time in his life, Sambo felt truly alone. The proud, handsome man who once thought he was untouchable was now reduced to nothing. His mother's words echoed in his mind as he limped away, a broken man with no place to call home. Sambo knew he couldn't stay in the village anymore. Everyone had seen what had happened. His disgrace was known to all. So, without a word to anyone, he packed up the little he had and quietly left the place he once called home. As he walked down the dusty road, his head hung low. He thought about the only child he had ever accepted as his, the daughter he had with Tinuke. He didn't even know what she looked like. He had never cared enough to see her, and now it was too late. The memories of the many girls he had hurt and the families he had destroyed weighed heavily on his heart. Sambo knew he would never be welcome in the village again. The people would only remember him as the man who crowed like a rooster, the man who had to suck his mother's breast to stay alive. He was no longer the proud Sambo. He was just a man with nothing left. Sambo wandered for days, lost in his thoughts, until he finally found a small village where no one knew him. It was quiet, far away from his old life, and he decided this would be his new home. He prayed to the gods every day, asking for guidance, for a chance to change his ways, to be a better person. The story of Sambo spread from village to village. People whispered about the man who had to suck his mother's breast to survive. It became a tale, passed down from one generation to the next, as a warning to others who thought they could live recklessly without consequences. Sambo, now living a quiet life in the small village, had learned his lesson. He carried the weight of his past with him every day, never forgetting the price he had paid for his reckless life. He had lost everything, but in his heart, he hoped that maybe, just maybe, he could find peace and redemption on this new path. I hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, share it with your family and friends, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for more enchanting tales like this one. Goodbye.